Let me just bring in Dr. Soumya Swaminathan. Thank you very much for joining us. We've all been watching you with great admiration and the WHO. I just wanted to ask you, so much has changed in the last 6 months. A lot of learning and a lot of de-learning. So where are we at now, and what have we de-learned and what have we learned, not only for COVID but also for other infectious diseases?
I would highlight two aspects, Pranoy. And first of all, I should start by saying that, Mahatma Gandhi believed that health is true wealth, not pieces of gold and silver. And we've seen that very clearly now. Look at the economic damage across the world, the way that GDPs have fallen. And it's all because of one little virus that has ripped across the world. So two things. One is for us to be better prepared. This isn't going to be the last big outbreak or pandemic that we see. And in fact, in India, we've seen how rapidly we were able to ramp up things like diagnostics that are needed, how quickly the lab capacity was expanded, that people were trained, things were being made in India, ventilators and other equipments that needed to be imported in the past. So this is all about preparedness. It's about human resources, but it's also about infrastructure, capacity, surveillance, the ability to look at data and make local decisions. So all that is public health preparedness. And I think on the other side is individuals and people, how much people's behavior really can affect health outcomes. For example, we've seen that normally you would have a big influenza season in the southern hemisphere because their winter is in our summer. This year, there's been hardly any flu. That's probably because people were maintaining physical distance, using hand hygiene and masking, when they go out. And so other diseases, which are also spread through droplets and which are respiratory infections like influenza, but also tuberculosis, can be controlled if people adhere to certain public health measures, including not spitting in public and not urinating and defecating in open spaces. And I know that we've made progress on these fronts, but I think a lot more can be done. So it's both public health preparedness and individual behavior change. And this is also linked to other things like physical exercise, like tobacco, diet, adequate diet and nutrition, and of course air pollution, because these are all the risks to our health, which actually account for 80% of mortality. So if you look at the 100 people who die and why they die, 80% of it is because of these underlying risk factors. And so we need to start by addressing those, because prevention is obviously much more cost effective and better than cure.
Soumya ji, this is Amitabh Bachchan. I just wanted to say that as WHO, the body that is leading this fight against COVID, when do you realistically feel or see or suppose that the vaccine is going to come out? And how is it going to be disseminated? I know I spoke earlier about this and said, vaccines are so rare. We don't have a vaccine for HIV yet, but I'm just asking this. And I do appreciate what you just said about getting yourself investigated, doing tests to find out what you're suffering from, and to have the belief that any kind of investigation can lead to some kind of a cure. And as United Nations Ambassador for Polio, this is something that we had to battle with when we were working towards getting India polio-free. For 8 years, we fought this battle. And one of the main obstacles was that nobody was wanting to take in these 2 drops, just these 2 drops, and to instill in them some kind of confidence. I know that the vaccine, we spoke to some of the earlier members that came onto the program, say that it may not last forever. There's no guarantee that either it can be made or even if it is administered, will it last long? Where do you see all this going?
Thank you, Amitabh ji, for your championing of health causes, because I have met you earlier in a tuberculosis. You've been a champion for tuberculosis, for hepatitis,
yes,
of course, for polio, and also when you suffered from COVID, you were giving a lot of public messages about it. So, and I think it makes a difference, especially to the stigma that surrounds some of these diseases. And so it really helps role models and celebrities when they talk about these diseases, and that anyone can get them, but then also give the correct preventive messages as you have been doing. As far as a vaccine is concerned, I think we can be optimistic because there are so many vaccine candidates under development, different platforms. It's a huge amount that's been invested, absolutely unprecedented, the kind of pace at which this has happened. Normally, we would wait for 5 years for a trial, minimum of 5 years. Today, we're looking for a vaccine within 12 to 18 months. And I think it can happen, but we have to give it 12 to 18 months. There are now about 9 vaccines in advanced stages of trials. We probably start expecting to see the results around end of the year, beginning of 2021. And then it takes some time for the regulatory authorities to approve these vaccines, for them to be shipped into countries, for ministries to start the vaccination program. So realistically, I think we're looking at middle of next year when people will start getting it. Yeah. You asked about allocation, very important, and that's what we are trying to focus on, is fair and equitable allocation, so that we're not in a situation where if a few countries have 100% of their populations protected while the rest of the countries are just waiting and waiting. So we're hoping that as vaccines become available, that they will be fairly distributed, that the most needy, the most high risk, most vulnerable in all countries will get it at the same time. And that's the only way that we can start bringing, an end to this acute phase of the pandemic. But I think we should prepare ourselves that it's going to be another year or two before enough people in the population are vaccinated and are protected. Until then, we need to practice all of these measures that we've been talking about. It's tough, but I think we have to just grit ourselves to do it, because there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are going to get over this, but it's going to need this kind of huge public cooperation and trust and trying to help each other to protect each other.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you talked about, my personal involvement in the tuberculosis campaign and the hepatitis B campaign. Fortunately or unfortunately, I look at it as fortunately, I was able to associate myself with these campaigns because I was able to give my own personal example. I don't expect everyone to be able to do that. It's just fortunate that I was diagnosed with TB in the year 2000 when I was just about starting my TB program. And because it was detected, because there was tests done immediately, I was able to overcome it during a course of a year. There was medication, there is a cure. Hepatitis B was another history of mine which, started with my accident in 1982, and it remained in me till almost 2006 when it was detected, and 75% of my liver is gone. But what I can say is that I'm surviving on 25% liver. And that was the example that I find many more people need to be giving. I know that Sanket and me were talking casually about him wanting to talk to me about my stay in hospital during my COVID experience. I just feel that, there's a certain kind of medical confidentiality that all patients and all hospitals observe. But really, Sanket, it was the immense dedication of the doctors and the nurses. And it's just unbelievable the kind of work that they're doing. Every one of them. Absolutely. Staying on the premises 24 hours, not going home, meeting their children or their wives and their family. And at the drop of a button or a press of a button, they're there in front of you to help you out. It's just unbelievable. All the workers in the hospitals, all the doctors and nurses, just completely dedicated. And one of the things, I don't know whether we should talk about it, is that one of the after effects, a lot of people say, you've come out of it, so what are the after effects? One, of course, is that you get weakness for about 4 or 5 months. And right now, it's very prevalent with me right now in this program. But just kidding.
You lost some weight.
No, it's not because of that. Yeah. But the other thing that came across was that for a human being, it is very essential to see another human being. And that is a cause of great depression amongst post-COVID patients. Because for the period that they're in hospital, they don't see any other human. Correct. The only people they see are ghost-like white-dressed doctors and nurses.
Yes.
Who you don't see their face, you don't see their expression, and that is a cause that of Great Depression. That's a post-COVID.
Mental health is a huge
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
in a post-COVID scenario.